What's going on, everybody? Thank you for coming out to our final segment of Black Home Story Month. I again am James Williams, broker owner of MW Legacy Realty, and I am here with one of my friends, clients, Laquisha. Say hi, Laquisha.
Hello.
So, we want to start by asking what was the catalyst that made you decide that you wanted to purchase a home?
Whew. Okay. So I always knew that that was going to be a goal of mine, but actually at the time that I embarked on this journey, it wasn't my goal at that time. But what happened in my life is that I had just received a promotion. And so I started thinking like, okay, my income is going to change a little bit. Well, this is one of the things anyway. I figured that my income was going to change a little bit. So I wanted to start looking into the process, finding out if there were any, what kind of resources or programs there might be available to me for first time home buying. So I said, you know what, let me start looking into this because some things were going to change in my life. Besides that, I also lived in a very small apartment with my two children, and we were totally outgrowing that space. So it was like the reason why we were there was, we said we were just gonna bunker down, and well, it was a temporary situation in the first place, and we said that we were just gonna bunker down. That's what we were gonna do. It was in a bad area, but the rent was low, and we were like, this is what we're gonna do until we buy a house. And I didn't see myself. I wasn't gonna go spend a lot of money to buy, to stay in another apartment, and we'll be all right. It was a little longer than what we expected, but we were totally outgrowing the space, couldn't do it anymore, and so I needed to start making a change. Either I needed to upgrade to a bigger apartment, or it was time to start looking for a home. So those were the two things that kind of drove me into the process.
Okay. Yeah, I did. I mean, you and I had a conversation about this off camera. You're, for lack of a better way to put it, like a little bougie. Just a slight bit, but I love my bougie black people. So just like you said, when I first found out where you live, I was like, oh, you live over here? I would never guess. I thought you lived in a high rise in the top of a building. So it was good to see you embark on this journey, because for me, you and I have known each other for like similar to my other clients, like 10 plus years. To watch you do this, and at times you would say it's hard because you're doing it by yourself with no family backing, no partner helping. But to see your two not little, they both about my size now.
Yeah. grown.
Right. To see you do this with your two girls in tow, and sometimes you even allow them to be the bigger voice in this process. Eventually you're just like, listen, I gotta do what I gotta do. I gotta be there. So it is what it is. Mama's paying the bills, but it was dope to watch that dynamic, for you to do it with your two young girls, and just kind of shows like it's not too late. You know what I mean? Just because they grown don't mean you still didn't have goals for yourself that you wanted to show them that it's possible.
Yeah.
So to tie that into your backstory, was there anybody in your family that owned a home when you were growing up? Did you grow up in an apartment or a house that your parents owned or whatnot?
So no, I did not.
Okay.
So no, I didn't. I've always grown up in apartments, and on my maternal side of the family. No, especially my immediate, like my grandmother's children, my mom and her sisters and stuff like that. No one owned any property, any homes. I didn't see that. I wasn't a part of that. A couple of people in my extended family on my maternal side did start. I started to see them purchase a home, and just the pride that was felt when they did that. Like it even extended to me. Like, oh my gosh, my aunt, my cousin bought a house. So it started when, as I'm going through adulthood or whatever. Then I started to get the itch of that being a goal of my own, but it wasn't something that was like instilled in me growing up. Now on my father's side, there are a lot of homeowners on that side. Like he owned a home, and my aunts owned a home for as long as I've known, and my grandmother on my dad's side, they all owned their homes. But I didn't grow up with them in their households, so that I kind of didn't really. It wasn't. I probably didn't even know that they owned the home. I just know that that's their house, Okay. So at that time, I think, I think that I kind of just developed that sense of I want this for myself. just growing into an adulthood and just seeing what I wanted out of life and what my purpose was and what I wanted to give to my children.
Okay, so you experienced home ownership just with some, let's say, some degrees of separation, it sounds like,
Yes.
between the two. So with that being said, what would you say you remember from growing up in your home?
Growing up in my home. Okay, so I remember my family was really, really big on like holidays and gathering together. My grandmother, especially my mother's mom.
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgivings, Christmases, they were such a big deal. Like I'm talking about, she'd bring out all of the ornaments. You had to go down a couple of weeks beforehand. Laquisha down here to polish up my good ornaments, and so because we gonna have. So it was a big deal, and she would get a gift for everybody. Had a gift, and it was a big deal. And she threw down, and when she passed, my mom and my aunt and her sister, because my grandmother has 3 daughters. Okay. So that's my mom and her 2 sisters. So they would try to really keep that tradition together. Like we would take turns at whose house we would celebrate it at. For a lot of years, it was my mom's house. And so she would take on, that torch of, hosting the Thanksgiving dinner, hosting Christmas and things like that. And so I think those are experiences that really stuck with me. Those are traditions that are really important to me. And that kind of trickled into my home buying process and what I wanted in my home.
Okay.
So
that's pretty dope. So the good part about that is the memories that you have are good.
Yes.
Right? It sounds like your house was filled with love. It had a lot of warmth, a lot of good memories. And were you in the same apartment for a long period of time, or was it you had to move around a lot?
So I did. I know me. I stayed in a lot of different places. Like I know me, like especially when I hit my teenage years, I didn't stay at my home with my mom, and so I lived with my aunt for a period of time. Okay. And then I lived with my mom sometimes. My mother has she was married, and so I have 4 other brothers with her. Okay. On her, with her, I have other siblings by my father, with my father's side, but my mom has 4 boys and her husband. And so,
so are you the only girl?
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
And the oldest.
Oh.
So for a period of time, like especially after I had Unique, so I had Unique at a very young age, and I stayed with my Aunt Teresa until I was out on my own. So I think I have especially during those teen years, I had a struggle during those times. I ain't gonna lie. Like I stayed a couple of places. I have been in a group home, all of that. I think that's probably I think that's probably where I get that group living type of thing. Like I'm always having something, like I've always had a friend come and stay with me if they need it or whatever. Like, and I kind of get that from, I feel like that experience. Like I'm okay with that. That I want to have people around. Like, so.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the process of buying a home was like? Like, I don't recall if we did see like a million houses.
We did.
Because it would be, the email would come to you at 6 a.m. Billy, we got to get in to see this one today. I got 1 hour window. I'm like, I'm not even awake right now. Can you give me a second? Like, please. So I know for me, I know you're going to get the answer. This process was stressful. It was stressful.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know you was high maintenance, but Jesus Christ.
It was fun. First of all, hold on. Let him tell his side. Let me tell my side, okay?
Oh my God. No, that's my side. No, that's my TED Talk. My Surviving Laquisha, the home buying story.
So
that's
listen,
what it was.
I feel like it was fun, right? Let me set the stage. It's COVID. All right, I'm working from home. The only time that I leave the house literally was when I went to do my workout or whatever. I would leave late at night when no one's around and no one's outside or something like that. So when I went to do my workout, or when I was either leaving the house to go drive around looking for houses. So I literally would wake I would wake up in the morning. First thing before I even start work, I would check all of the MLS sites, Willows, and all of them. I would check all of them plus the listing that that really sent me. And I'm like, listen, I see this one. This is not on your list. Do you think we can? Once I realized that I was on this journey, I was on it. I was just like, I wanted to know everything. I wanted to see everything. Of course I had all these large expectations, and he would always bring me back down to size. Now hold on, go back to your list. But yes, I definitely and even what I couldn't find things that weren't listed. What do you call the homes that aren't listed yet, or whatever? What did you call that list?
So the good thing about having multiple websites sending you properties, if you have an agent that's sending you properties, we have a list that other agents have. So I've touched on this in a prior segment. We're no longer gatekeepers of the houses that are for sale, right? If you have a list set up on Zillow or like Craigslist to send you properties, the good thing about those lists is you'll get your for sale by owners. And those aren't lists that are going to come through your agent's email. So you were getting the for sale by owners. I think that was pretty much it. You were getting the FSBOs, and you were getting the list that I was sending you. And then like all your websites, your Realtor, your Zillow, your Trulia, they're all sending you the same information in different formats.
Right, but I'll be harassing him like, do you have any leads on something that didn't hit the market yet? Or
I like this neighborhood. Do you know any? I'm like, I don't drive through these neighborhoods, knocking on people's doors.
But it's crazy how I actually came to you was because I had saw the house, literally the very first house that I saw. Because just to backtrack just a little bit, when I told you I was starting out in the process, I first started out by researching what resources were available to me. Then I realized, okay, none of them are available to me. So I was like, let's move to the next thing. So then I just started looking for stuff. Didn't have a pre-qualification, no nothing. Didn't even really research the process all the way to know what my beginning steps were. I just was like, hey, let me just start looking at houses. And I found this house. And I found this house, and I remember taking a break and going to go see it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I'm looking for or whatever. And I ended up calling the number that was on the sign.
You called the listing agent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he came, and he was like, I happen to be around the corner from the house. And he came around, and he showed me the house. And I was all excited about it. So he's asking me, are you pre-qualified? And I'm like, oh, I don't think so. He's like, here. Talk to my man, Steph Q. He's giving me all this information, so I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, great. So I come home and I call James. I'm like, listen, I think I want to buy a house. I found it totally premature stages. Didn't know what I was doing. Didn't know nothing. He was just like, so the listing agent told you this. He's like, you don't have your own agent. I'm like, oh, I need my own. There's two. What is there? I knew nothing. So
yeah, and the funny thing about that house was, I remember following up on the house. I wish I remember what it sold for. But it was going to be like the record sell in that neighborhood. It was a 2-family. I will admit it was very nice. And it was probably the perfect setup.
It fit, yes.
It was the perfect setup. I will give you that. My concern was that it would have been the most expensive sell by like $50,000 in that neighborhood. I'm like, as much as I love this house and as much as you love this house, I don't think this is a good idea.
Yes.
Fast forward now, here we are in post-COVID times, and interest rates are rising, and people's house values are dropping. And I'm just like, I had a few clients that, for lack of inventory, they had to do what they had to do. But we lucked out that I do think that place sold for almost what they listed it for, pretty darn close.
Yeah.
But I always tell my buyers, you want to be able to buy that house, and if you had to, turn around tomorrow and sell it for the same number you bought it for. If you can't, that wasn't a good decision.
Yeah.
So even though the market was high, I still didn't want any of my buyers to be, like some people are right now. They bought a house at the peak of COVID, and in COVID, people were throwing offers $50,000-$60,000 over ask, no inspections, no appraisals, sometimes cash. And I'm like, it's going to come a time when that's not going to look like a good decision anymore. So here we are with that. But what made you choose this particular house?
So we went through several houses, right?
A dozen houses.
Right. And actually at the time, we had offers on 2 other houses when I found this one. Yes.
Oh,
we had an offer on a house in Latham, and we had an offer on the other one that was up near Crossgates. And and I think the one up near Crossgates had like so many people so many offers. We didn't even think that was gonna even go through or whatever. I didn't think I was gonna get it before that, and they actually end up eventually accepting it or whatever, my offer. But then I decided I didn't want the house.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that. This is the biggest decision a lot of people, second to like, well, let's say third. Who they get married to, who they have children with, what house you buy. That's probably the top 3 decisions you'll make in your life. So yeah, no, if you find yourself like you're having buyer's remorse in that attorney approval window, like you can kind of get out of the contract for whatever reason because the sky was purple that day. You just went out. I say go for it. So, so no, with this house, I think it still worked out pretty well. It wasn't the first one that was like perfect, but this house was pretty spot on.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing is wanting to make sure, and this is something that, James will talk to me about when I was going through. He was like, Q, your kids are so much older, they're going to be gone soon. You want to make this decision thinking about you in mind, whatever. And I would just explain to him how much it meant to me to be at a space in life where I can take this step and not include them. Like I had to. It was important to me to make sure that, Unique, my oldest daughter, she was still in school at the time and she works. I couldn't go find a house that was somewhere where she wouldn't be able to get to work or get to school or whatever the case. That was important to me because I wanted us to be able to, I want them to be as successful as possible. I don't want to push them out prematurely. We have plans and goals to build together. So I'm like, I want her to be comfortable. So it was important to me that she had space. She had space to run her businesses and, see her clients and do her treats and all of that kind of stuff. That was important. It was important to me that my youngest daughter, she wanted to be in Albany. And I was looking in Delmar, I was looking in Latham, I was looking in the outskirts because the taxes in Albany was so high. So I was trying to, even though I had a good pre-qual number, I was trying not to max out at it. Like I was trying to see if I could find something else, but it was so important to my youngest daughter that because she didn't want to change school, she wanted to be in Albany or whatever. So like those things, even though I had to make the final decision, I just could not make them without, considering what they wanted, what they needed. And because I'm a single mom, if I go move us to the outskirts, I'm responsible for getting them around. If something, if something was to happen to these cars, whatever. Yeah. So, and then again, my house wanting it to be a gathering space because that is what I'm passionate about. That's who I am. I love to create spaces for people to gather. That means something to me. So that's something else that James would say. He'd be like, yeah, he's like, you doing all this because you think you're going to be hosting, so you hope you host a couple Christmases, then you ain't going to come back no more for a couple of years. And he said that, but it really means a lot to me. If I have to create my Christmas experience with strangers, I know that that's something that's embedded in me. So having an open, welcoming space was very, very important to me. So, and he would listen, and I think I appreciate that. I appreciate those conversations where you were able to talk to me and, bring me back down and let me know what the real is, but then still listen to me, what I'm saying, and understand what I'm passionate about, so that we were able to, find the right place for me. And I really do believe that we've found that. We have really settled in here.
Yeah, no, you've done a great job decorating. And I think that as an agent, when you're helping people, you get very wrapped up in like the dollars and cents and keeping people on track and so on and so forth. But there's often something I will tell people. One thing you can't measure on a house beyond the bedrooms and the baths and the square footage is that house for like a home. That's it. If you have no idea what you're looking for in a house, you don't know how many bedrooms you want, bathrooms you want, and blah, blah, blah. It may be impulsive that you walk into a house and say, oh, this feels like home and I'm going to buy it. But that's honestly the most important factor. Can you see yourself making not just memories, but good memories there? So as much as I am often of the mindset, don't max out your budget for the people that are there twice a year. At the end of the day, if you look back and the house was filled with love, sometimes it's the cost of doing business. And it is what it is. So I know in the process of us looking for houses, with us looking at 1 million houses and we were looking at 2 families, 3 families, 1 family. We had 3 pre-qual letters, one from this lender, that lender, blah, 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 blah. And it ultimately worked out But I think the other thing that I thought was just in the problem solving aspect of working with your client, you wanted to. I remember your budget being a pretty healthy budget, especially for a single person, and we still couldn't find a house that was good. So that was why we were looking at 203K rehab loans, and we wound up. What was it? It was the Key Bank non-recourse rehab loan, and I'm like, listen, you have like when your mortgage, when they file that paperwork, they still got to take it to the office. They still got to record your mortgage and blah blah blah. You had a credit score strong enough to get a house. You probably got a credit strong enough to go get some money to fix the house. Before it hits your credit, before that mortgage shows up on your credit, you close that morning, you go to Key Bank and you apply to get that rehab loan. And in a very strong seller's market, you don't often have time to do those 203K loans just because you got to have contractors lined up, you got to have invoices and estimates lined up, and it's a lot of logistical things that people, when they're pushing like, oh, buy the 203, the house with a 203K, they don't talk about that part. Like in a seller's market, that is not a very easy loan to get passed through. So that's another way to get around it. If you can go get another.
And just not to interrupt you real quick, but I would love to shout out LaFonso Bonner I Am New York Construction, because when we thought we were going to go in that direction, that's who I reached out to be a contractor to help us, because we thought that we were going to need to get these estimates and stuff like that if I was to choose a property like that. But we didn't end up going that direction, but he helped me so much. He was so instrumental when I moved into this house. He actually referred my the person who did my inspection, John Howard. He has referred me to many other people who have helped me even since I've been here. So my plumbing service,
when your basement flooded?
Yes. I usually call him first for everything. Him and my cousin Terry, John Terry of Terry's Integrity. Also Eric Chapman, he's flown up here and to help me with some things as well. But
flown people in?
Well,
look at you.
He used to live here, but he lives in Atlanta, Georgia now. So he's flown up here twice to do some work on the house. So yes, so that they've all been Jeremy Nixon. These are all names that I really want to shout out. They're all people of color. They're all brothers that are entrepreneurs and doing their thing out here, and they have definitely helped me in this process and with all my crises that has happened.
Hey, listen,
Irv Ackerman.
If there's one thing I've always respected about you, if you've decided it's happening, it's happening. And if ever, this is my partner in poetry. We used to put on some great shows for poetry, but behind the scenes, chaos, fire, fireworks, smoke, and Q just like, you go there, you go front, you go back, and we're just like, yeah, whatever. So, and now you're working with who?
Oh, I'm working with Black Theater Troupe. New York State of New York.
Yeah, down at the Capitol Rep in Albany. So she's doing the same thing there. You go there, you go there.
Stage man, I have a chunk of stage management things that I need to do for tonight. We have a show coming up, but anyway.
So we'll put a connection to that show as well, so you guys can support her show. But what do you think were the preconceived notions for you prior to buying a house? Like, did you think it was going to be hard? Did you think it was going to be easy?
I did. I didn't think that I would be. That brings me back to even saying, like, when I started the process, I didn't even know I was really going to be embarking on the process. Like, I didn't think that I was ready. I didn't have a lot of money saved. I thought that I had to have $50K, and I thought I had to have this impeccable credit score and all of that. So I knew that I was in a place where I needed to start looking into it, but I didn't think that I was ready. And I think that was the biggest misconceived notion. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You didn't think it was for you at the time.
Yes. So I was just like, and I think that's what was making me so excited about the process, because wait, I can really do this.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, let's do it. And I wanted to learn about everything. Like, oh my gosh, and how does this work? Because I don't want this. This is not the first time that I want to embark on this journey. I want to, go into, buying rental properties or maybe commercial properties. I want to teach my kids, and so that they can start to build their own wealth. So, I wanted to learn as much about the process as possible, because this is something that I want to become second nature. I want to be able to be in a room and understand the talk. And not only that, but present myself in a way that people know what I'm talking about, and I can be able to take advantage of opportunities as well.
Yeah, no, I respect that.
So
where we are now, what would you say the demographic of your neighborhood is?
I heard there's a brother on this block. I ain't seen them yet.
Hey, brother, someone's brother.
Yeah, I haven't seen them, but you
There's a phantom black guy around here. I know there is.
My daughter said that there is a black male on our block. So I haven't seen him yet, but that's what I've heard. But yes, it's predominantly white. I think I haven't seen any other cultures. But my neighbors are very nice.
Very nice, very accepting.
Yes. When we first moved in, my neighbors across the street, they have this really awesome house across the street. They came over, they brought, I think, banana bread, introduced themselves, gave me some pointers. They were like, if you have extra trash some nights, put some over at Larry's. Because he's not here during the summer.
Shout out to Larry. You don't know where you're at, fam. So shout out to you when you're not putting out your trash, fam.
So yeah, no, and then even in my next door neighbor, I had a plumbing issue just recently, and they helped me out so much. I literally was panicking. I had water shooting out of a pipe on the side of my house. I didn't know what the heck was going on.
Your faucet broke, didn't it? It froze.
No, it wasn't even that. It was some type of backup. Eventually, it took a while to get to what was really happening, but it was some kind of backup with the garbage disposal that messed up the plumbing all the way through, and my sump pump was. Funny story, real quick. We kept hearing this noise. Didn't know what it was. I'm like, is that the HVAC system coming on and off or something? I remember it being this loud before, whatever. The whole time it was the sump pump, but because the sump pump never worked, it never
heard it kick on?
Yes. We didn't know what it was, so we didn't even know that we had a whole issue going on downstairs where the sump pump needed to be coming on. So yeah. So anyway, he helped me by putting some piping on the side of the house and turning the piping so that the water would drain out to the street until we fixed the issue. And he came and did that himself, just being helpful. Like, hey, did you notice what's going on? Let me see, whatever. So they've been very helpful, and I appreciate that. So
yeah, and I think I remember going into the purchase of this particular house, there was some concern for you and I that because they're so close, let's be honest, we know sometimes we can have some parties that get loud, get rowdy. We got family members that are just like, they not necessarily, the ones you want around certain kind of people. So it's good throughout this series that even I went through it, where you have some apprehension that you're buying into a neighborhood where no one else looks like you, that fear gets debunked because they just, in some regards, I think, wrap their arms around you as the new neighbor, not the new black neighbor or whatever. It's just our preconceived notion of, are we gonna fit in?
Yes.
That imposter syndrome of like, are we gonna be good in this neighborhood? And I think we live in although it's upstate New York, it's pretty liberal, so it's pretty comfortable.
We've had gatherings, and in the summertime when we do barbecue outside and we sit outside and we play our music, we definitely play our music. Like, so no one has complained yet. There was one time that during the summer we had the windows open and stuff, and I did have a gathering. And then another thing that I do, I try to go by all the etiquette stuff. So I had whenever I'm gonna have something, I'll like draft up a little note, and I have Umaje go around to the neighbors that are nearest to us and just let them know, hey, we're having this gathering. If there's an issue, just give me a call.
Don't call the police, please.
Yeah, right. Right.
Call me,
right.
Not PD.
So the only one time that my next door neighbor came over and said something to me, it was because her daughter's window was like right next to our dining room, and I think we were having like a card night or something like that.
Oh, y'all playing spades?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was just like, no, it's not a problem. I was just wondering if you could close that one window. Right. I was like, oh, sorry. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if they do feel away, but they certainly don't make. They don't make you feel. No, they've been very helpful. Both my neighbors on both sides of my house, they give me information all the time. on things that if they see something, my one neighbor, he'll go and shake off the bushes, and he said, I shake off the snow off of the bushes because, and he'll give me a whole history lesson of why that's important. And I tell him, please let me know, because I'm a first time homeowner, it's just us ladies in here. So, we welcome anything that you guys see that you want to tell us. So
yeah, no, I think that is something I've been speaking to a lot of people around me about, is there is this push for Black people to own stuff. And there was probably a point in time back before our generation that precedes us where they were telling them to own stuff. We've got to go beyond owning stuff, owning businesses, owning houses, and get to the point where we're maintaining them. Yeah. Because you don't want to get it to the point where you've done nothing in the house, nothing to maintain it, never painted anything, never fixed anything, and now you leave your kids with this, basically a liability, because that's why people often wind up selling grandma's house or grandpa's house, because the house that they get, that they receive or inherit, that's the word I'm looking for, is a house that they watch crumbling around their grandmother as she was probably going to her demise. And it's like, I don't want that. It's not a good memory for me anymore. Yeah. So it's good that your neighbors are giving you that information and showing you how to own a house. I think that's actually really dope. Yeah. So what would you say, for your perspective, is one of the biggest hurdles for people of color bridging the gap in homeownership?
So I'm gonna say, from my experience, I really and there was a couple people around me that were going through the process as well, and I was hearing all these horror stories, and I just kept waiting when I was going through the process for, like, oh my gosh, we're at this next phase. Oh, this is gonna be it. This is gonna be it. But when I was going through the process, I feel like it went pretty smoothly. Mm-hmm. The only time that I got antsy was during the closing period, when it was just like, okay, everything is done. I answered your questions. Everything's good. Like, like what's the holdup? Because it was the holiday season. I think we went under contract in November, and I was hoping for a quick.
We closed right after the New Year.
We did, but because I had everything in place, we were hoping that we were going to close. And so it was just that little me being antsy, wanting to get in there. But besides that, it went pretty smooth for me. So all the things that I was scared of, not having enough money, my credit not being good enough, it's going to be too much red tape, too many hurdles, too much to dig into my background that I went. But it wasn't. I don't know if it's because I just prepared myself so much, because I just got engulfed in the process of, us doing it. But I felt like it was just really seamless for me. I mean, I don't know if it's probably because of you as well. Like, what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people sometimes, their realtor may not necessarily be their friend, but what I'm saying? James is my friend. I literally would call him and talk to him about everything. So, especially during this process. So, I would say, the first things first is know your stuff. Stop thinking that you can't do it, and figure out what's going on with you. Where are you financially? Where are you? Figure out all of your data first. You know what I'm saying? And then from there, go forward. And don't look at it as, I'm not ready for that yet. Go figure out where even if you do have to go, try to get pre-qualified or whatever the case may be, find out where you are. Even if you fall short somewhere, then you'll know what I need to work towards. Yeah. I would say.
So what I tell people is, don't tell yourself no. Go to the decision makers and get a yes. Yes. And if they tell you a no when you're looking for a yes, then say, how do I get a yes? Right. That's it. So many times, and I just spoke at a small thing at one of the caucus events. Thank you, Virginia Rollins, for inviting me.
She's awesome.
Yeah, she's dope. Yeah. So she invited me to speak, and that was kind of my thing. Is one, we have ancestors that were murdered, lynched, burned, forced out of their houses, and a lot of them fought for us to have the right to vote, to not be property and to own property. And I personally feel it's our responsibility to them to own a piece of something. It doesn't have to be a business, even if it's just your house, to own something as an ode to them, to say, hey, for all those blood and tears that you shed, I'm going to build on that, and I'm going to at least own something. So don't tell yourself no. And I think that's what it is. A lot of us think we don't belong in that neighborhood. We don't have the credit. Yep. We don't have the finances. And the truth is, you probably do, but you're just telling yourself no. That's it. Yes. So
I literally manifested being here, because I would literally ride around this neighborhood all the time. Like when, especially like I told you, it was during COVID when I was going through this process. So me getting up and going for rides, that was just like my highlight of the day. And I would just ride around, and I would always I would always hit this neighborhood. It doesn't matter if I tried to, explore a new area. This neighborhood is somewhere where I always would end up. And then even when I was growing up, I would have friends that lived over by Buckingham Lake in the Santa Third or whatever. And so I would always like admire, my friends with the beautiful houses and living in these neighborhoods and stuff like that. And so by me ending up finding this house, I literally had two offers in on another house, one in Latham and one all the way up near Crossgates. And I woke up this morning in the morning and I saw this listing had just hit like maybe a couple of minutes ago. And I called Billy and I'm like, listen, we gotta see this place. It has the open concept. I'm like, you gotta see the pictures. It has the open concept that we're looking for, and I think it hits all the markers, whatever. And he was just like, I don't even think I can get in there, whatever. But he made his magic happen and got us in here. But and when I saw it, I'm like, I think this could work. I said, I want you to put an offer down. I was like, just give them what they're asking for, because at that point, I think a couple of times, my offer had got beat, and I was scared and. So I was like, just give them what they're asking for. Whatever. I was like, I really want it. Because it was in Albany. Like, that's what my youngest really wanted. So I was just like, I didn't know what was going to happen. And then when they first came back, they were like, no, we kind of want to see. So you were the first person who saw this house. We want to cut. We have some other showings. But then they came back. And so I really feel like I manifested being here. Like, I was driving around here every day before I knew exactly where I was going to live anyway.
Hey, listen, I'm a big believer in the Lord, so God willing, sometimes is what I say when we put an offer out there. Like, if you put your best foot forward, put your best offer, your best terms forward, if God wants you to have it, you'll have it. So the Lord wanted to bless you with a house, and you got it. So Amen. As we wrap up, I want to shout out, we have a house full of entrepreneurs. So her oldest put this spread together for us. We kind of messed it up so we could grab our wine glasses. Grabbed our wine glasses, but her oldest daughter's name is Unique. Does her business have a name?
Uniquely Divine. So she has Uniquely Divine treats, and then she has Uniquely Divine where she makes different type of waist beads and fashion items.
So I'll put a link to her business in here, and then for you're a jack of several, or a Jackie of several trades. So is there anything that you want to plug while we're?
So yeah, I'm still working on one of the businesses that I started during COVID is I am a Primerica representative, so I'm able to help my clients out with getting term life insurance, homeowners insurance. That's where my homeowner insurance is actually through there. Medical insurance, many other financial products, and just helping my clients get on a right financial path. So that is something that I am still building and working on. I'm also a mobile notary, and I love to do plays and productions and all kinds of programming and things like that. So like you said, I do a little bit of everything.
Yep. So this is our third and final segment of Black Home Story Month. This was one I was really looking forward to because, again, to watch what you did, kind of toting it on your own with a lot of the other people in the segments that I worked with. They had partners with them, even if they weren't like on the paperwork. They still had people backing them. This was you. And I've always admired the fact that you're a go-getter, and whatever you decide that you're going to do, you do it. It's something that I admire about you.
Thank you.
So, thank you everyone for joining us for Black Home Story Month, and we're out. Peace.